Welcome, everyone, to the AI Risk Reward Podcast. This is your host, Alec Crawford. And our special guest today is Mike Montague, founder of Avenue 9, an AI marketing agency. Welcome, Mike.
Hey, so great to be here.
Hey, great to have you. Look, I hear you're kind of a funny guy, so I'd love you to tell me and the audience a joke.
Yeah, I just released a book that has like 52 bad dad jokes and 52 fake sponsors. So I had to come up with like 104 different jokes. I think my favorite one is, what did the bra say to the hat?
What, Mike?
You go on ahead. I'm going to give these two a lift.
Nice. That's pretty strong. All right, good dad joke.
But
Although it's probably for the 13 and over crowd, but PG-13. Um, how did your experience as DJ Romeo influence your approach to marketing and sales training?
Well, it was a lot of fun. And I think I learned a lot about marketing in radio. I mean, it's basically an advertising business. So there's a ton behind the scenes of recording commercials and doing pitches. And I was the prize guy for like 5 years, where all I did was drive around to different, mostly car dealerships and grocery stores and give 30-second commercials over and over again and find out what caused people to show up and what didn't get people's attention. And I got to perfect my 30-second commercial pitches thousands of times over those years. So I think that was big. But some of my top marketing lessons are actually because I was on a top 40 radio station, is about relating to a large group of people and an audience. You kind of have to learn how to speak specifically to one person, but also stay general for everybody. We stay away from things like politics and religion because no matter what, you're going to offend half of your listenership. And that's not what the shows are about. We also learn kind of the magic of radio is that you can't see what's going on. So, if I'm, when I was DJ Romeo and playing pretend, if I'm trying to flirt with a girl on a phone or something, nobody knows what she looks like. So that can be anybody. It can be my sister. It can be my friends and family. It can be another DJ on the radio station. It doesn't matter if they can call up and do a voice you don't recognize. You can put on a skit or a little play and make people laugh. So there was a lot of interesting marketing lessons over those years.
Yeah, super cool. Look, I think public speaking is super important skill. A lot of people just basically don't have at this point. And you mentioned a book before the show, What to Do When It's Your Turn by Seth Godin. So just pitch the audience on that book.
Well, this is a kind of collection of Seth Godin blogs, and I'm assuming if you're a marketer, you should know who Seth Godin is, but he is the world's most famous marketer. He has won lots of awards, has a blog that he's written for, I don't know, like 15, 20 years now, and about 20 best-selling books and things too. This one came out about 10 years ago, right when I needed it, about creative expression, finding your voice, living in the moment and taking advantage of it, not waiting. So the what to do when it's your turn is about how to execute on these marketing ideas or creating something that is your voice, your value, your self-expression in the world. And it really inspired me to write that book, Playful Humans, because I had something that I wanted to say. I liked his style of short blog posts and a collection, and it's kind of in like a magazine layout, and it just really makes you think. It's an easy read, but it's fun, interesting concepts, and there's some great lessons about marketing stories, branding, and what it takes to connect with individuals in that book.
Yeah, cool. And you also mentioned someone who really inspired you, John Jans of Duct Tape Marketing, his brand, his network, his family business. So tell us a little bit about what made him special to you.
Yeah, he's another one of my favorite marketers, and I have gotten to meet both of these men, and they're really kind of been mentors to me, whether they know it too much or not. John is here in Kansas City as well. He started Duct Tape Marketing and had sort of a certification program for marketers, and it's grown into a cool sort of franchise business and model that they don't actually franchise, but sort of an endorsed providers model. So he wrote Duct Tape Marketing. It's a great book about making ideas stick and being versatile and creative in your marketing. But he set up this business where he really empowers others. He was always kind, had me on his podcast. I had him on mine, willing to give to other people in the community and show up when he could. Travels the world and created a really cool business for his daughter now that's taking it over. And I just think that when people do cool things and you meet these sort of celebrity marketers or influencers and they turn out to be really genuine, I think that's magical. So Seth gave me time at an event afterwards to talk to me really quick. John did the same. And Dave Ramsey, actually, met him when I was in radio. I worked with a company that owned the talk radio station he was syndicated on. And he was really kind, gave me a copy of his book and talked to me behind the scenes while we were waiting to go on stage and stuff. And I just think when you meet cool people like that and they are living what they're preaching and they're willing to help pull other people up with them, that's a really special thing.
Yeah, I've heard most people like that are nice, with the exception of Russell Crowe, apparently. But so what's a game you get people to play to loosen up a bit in like a corporate retreat environment or something that hasn't included alcohol yet?
Oh, yeah. I am not a fan of alcohol. I quit drinking when I was 21. I still will have an occasional beverage or something. So it's not a philosophical stand for me or anything. It just doesn't make me feel good. And I think people replace having actual fun with alcohol and stuff. So I think we had a lot more real fun when we were kids and we were playing around, or we would make a game, or we'd bounce a ball, or we would tell stories and play make believe or tag, and we would connect with other people much differently before we introduced alcohol into the mix. So I have a whole ton of these as well. I've been sort of team building public speaker for about 15 years now. My absolute favorite, if you're watching the video version, is Lego. There's approximately 20,000 Lego behind me on the shelf. Lego pieces.
Wow.
So I got certified through a group that does Lego Serious Play. And this is a way to help adults relearn how to play with Lego like you did when you're a kid. And there's this really cool concept called the 4D model. So much of our world now is in 2 dimensions. It's flat screens, it's flat paper, it's just, I don't know, we're all working on these devices that don't really allow 3D creativity. So when you can build something with Lego in real life and you can connect with people in a room in 3D, it's really powerful. It lets you think more creatively and see somebody else's perspective because you can walk around the other side of the table and see what it looks like from their angle. But the 4th dimension is story in this. And I think really that's a powerful lesson for marketers is when you add a story to the Lego build. And so I have an R2-D2 character behind me here as well. When you start playing with my nieces or nephew and we're doing a scene from Star Wars, or I'm giving it a voice, that's adding a new dimension to this build that we created. And I love working with adult teams to figure this out. Is you could build like a Lego model of your company culture. And then you get people to talk about, well, why did you choose this? Why did you put the leaders up here on a pedestal and not on the same level as other people? Or how come you chose these green bricks over here instead of black bricks? And why is the why is the customer not elevated up on the pedestal? And you can start adding some really cool dimensions to your story when you play with Lego. And it kind of lowers everybody's inhibitions. It lets them remember what it's like as a child, not take the thing too seriously. Like when we say, all right, we got to brainstorm a solution to our Q1 numbers. All right, everybody come up with an idea that's not bad. That will not work in the same way.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, what inspired you to found Avenue 9, and how does it differentiate itself from other marketing agencies with AI? I'm curious.
Yeah, so far we've only hit on the playful side of my career, but I have kind of three threads that weave throughout my adult life. One is the entertainment and play. I love public speaking, podcasting. I started an internet radio station, and I've always just never turned down a chance to be behind a microphone. I've hosted karaoke and game shows and stuff, done everything I can to have fun and play with people. The second thread is my father became a Sandler trainer when I was in high school. This is Sandler sales training. Um, they're the world's largest sales training organization, have over 200 locations. And I started working for him about 15 years ago, worked my way up until my final position was head of franchise strategy and a coaching team that coached 400 other sales coaches. So I've done sales and leadership training for a long time. So the third thread for me is technology. I learned to design websites in high school, and um, in the late 90s, that was a thing. I made $1,000 for the first website I built for a company, and was earning $50 an hour when I was 18 years old. And I've always just kind of had a knack for technology. My mom won a computer in a radio station contest, an Apple IIc in 1986. That was before there were any computer programs or games. So if I wanted to play a game, I had to learn how to program the computer and stuff. And that continued through my adult life. I helped the Kansas City Chiefs broadcast over the internet for the first time in I think like 2005 ish. Then I mentioned I started an internet radio station. I designed over 200 websites. I became an internet marketer when social media came out, started working for an advertising agency, and just kind of continued from there. And what I noticed about 2 years ago is this seismic shift with AI, that the next revolution was really here. That, getting a website was big in the late 90s, early 2000s. Social media became big in the 2010s. And 2020 was interesting with the pandemic and remote work and stuff, but it didn't feel like a seismic shift. It felt like more of the same. But then when AI came out, my role changed. I was able to do what I was doing in my day job with podcasting and content marketing and writing blogs and white papers and designing webinars and everything in about a tenth of the time that I was able to do before. And I realized that the variable cost of creating content marketing is essentially zero now. For some really cheap tools, you can make whatever you want to make. So that leads to a lot of other subtopics. I'll let you ask a question here in a second. But for me, it meant that there's this opportunity to start Avenue 9, to dive into this AI marketing and help other people figure out how to make this transition. Because I think no matter what business you're in, and especially if you're a marketer, you're going to have to use these tools. You can't just say like, oh, I'm not a techie person, I'm not into AI, I'm not going to do it. In the next 3 to 5 years, every job I think will be an AI job. And it's really a cool challenge, but also an awesome creativity opportunity, because the question becomes, what do you want to make? Who do you want to connect with? What do you want to build? And how do you want to use these tools in a way to grow your business and grow your reach? And there's some incredible opportunities.
Could you explain what human first AI means to you and how it shapes your work?
That's my favorite part, is that what I learned with AI so far is that if you just ask AI I was in sales training, you ask it to write a 30-second commercial pitch for your cold calls, it'll write one that's average. That's not very good. Here's a little known secret. Over 50% of salespeople miss quota. So if you use an average pitch, you're not going to make very many sales. If you get better at prompt writing and you ask it very specifically to help you, write a 30-second commercial for my business, I want it to include these paints and it's to this audience, and you give it some tweaks, you can get up to about 80%. It'll write a decent one. But if you interview the company's founder, their top salesperson, and their best clients, and put those transcripts into AI, and then say, based on what you know, write a 30-second commercial for this business, you will get an A plus 30-second commercial that's better than the founders and the salesperson delivered themselves, because you're adding more context to it. So when you do the human part first, the AI gets incredibly better at what it does. I will also say, I named my company Human First AI Marketing, and I coined that term because I think it's really important to not start from bad work and to do your thinking and your creativity up front and then amplify it. But best practice is also to do human last. You need to, I wouldn't just trust what it spits out and send that out there. You need to fact check AI. You need to remove the word delve. You need to make sure it wrote in your voice, and do some human last. And then in the middle, it's really a collaboration. I found that most of these tools work best when you kind of fight with it a little bit. You argue, you go back and forth a few times, and you do faster iterations of like human AI, human AI, human AI, and then end on a human review. You can really, really do some cool things.
Yeah, absolutely. Make this shorter, make it more pithy, add something funny, whatever. Yeah, that totally makes sense. So how is AI reshaping the landscape of marketing for small and medium-sized businesses then? Obviously, you've got people like yourselves out there promoting this. Is it making it cheaper? Is it making it better? I mean, marketing's gotten tricky, right? Because you've got like, Google has
Yeah.
such a lock, at least currently, on searches. That's going to change. People are starting to do searches through, OpenAI, for example, right?
Over half of them switched just this year alone. So most large commercial businesses are seeing over half of their traffic drop from SEO to uh, other searches and other avenues. So whether that's Perplexity, ChatGPT, or Gemini, it doesn't matter. People are getting the answers before they land on your website, which is a big shift for the way we've been thinking about internet marketing, at least for the last 20 years. But I think there are three major shifts that I find really exciting. Number one is I think a $1 to $30 million company can now compete with a big brand. 2 years ago, that was not true. If you wanted to have a YouTube channel and a podcast, and you want to write blogs and publish books and have a robust thought leadership thing, you had to hire a bunch of people. You needed copywriters, videographers, editors. You had to do a lot of work and spend a lot of money and buy expensive graphics and photos to include in there and hire a graphic designer. And now I think like one person can do all of those things, and the AI tools can help you design it, create custom images, can help you take your thoughts and clarify them, can create videos and stock images for whatever you want. And the question becomes like, what do you want to create then, and who can connect best with the audience? So seismic shift number two, I think, is that it's going to get so crowded so fast that SEO is also going to die, and social media is going to die, because if every business on the planet has a channel, that's just too much noise and not enough signal for people. The algorithms are going to be overwhelmed. You're not going to really see anything from people that you want to hear from, and what you do see from them might be artificially created. And I think it's going to reverse this trend we've been seeing of more content and more stuff, and post every day or 3 times a day, and create 1,000 blogs, to we got to find some really interesting stuff and some hand-to-hand combat to go find a customer, connect with them, and create something custom for somebody that's going to cut through all of that noise. And then I think the third seismic shift is that there's no single channel anymore. And I don't know that there's even going to be single content in the very near future. And what I mean by that is I think we've seen the audiences become so fractured that we know there's no, like there was 50 years ago, there were 3 channels on television, and we could just pick one of those and put an advertisement up and reach a good portion of the population, millions of people. What we're seeing now is even the major influencers have a small sliver of the audience. People don't know who Mr. Beast is if they're not a YouTube fan and they're not a teenage boy really in that category of group. And so what I think that is going to do is also create some sort of localization or independent thought leaders and curators of information, that when we can't trust what's coming out was even generated by a human, I think we're going to go back to, I'm going to have to ask somebody like Alec on this podcast, I know is a human, and I can ask him a question and trust what he's saying. And outside of that, if I just see a video of you somewhere, I can't even trust that you said it or you created it. It could be done by somebody else. So I think, I'm hoping that we're going to see a shift in trust back to the individuals and less in the organizations or the platforms.
Yeah, so when you think about AI tools out there that you're using or other people are using, like, how do we make sure that they're used ethically in marketing strategies, right? So effectively, you're referencing deep fakes, right? Like, if you see a
Yeah.
video of me saying something, may or may not be real, right?
But deepfakes aren't even in videos now. I don't know if you've noticed, but if you go to Amazon.com and you search for I don't know, a shovel or an article of clothing or something, there are these brands that pop up that don't exist. They don't have a store anywhere. It's a fake product that's just produced cheaply somewhere, and they slap a brand on it, like, you know, Kofifi or something, and you're like, oh, I guess I should buy the Kofifi shovel, and we don't even know who we're buying it from anymore online. You're giving me a surprised look. You haven't
Wow.
noticed this? Have you done your
Wow.
Christmas shopping and
Yeah, that's
you look
pretty
and you're like,
crazy. I'm like a big brand guy, so yeah. But
yeah,
I get it. That's I
you scroll through the feeds and the big brands are gone. Like, you can still look for them, but you have to type in, like, if you want to buy a Lego, you have to type in
mm,
Lego into the search and make sure you're buying a Lego. Otherwise, there's a million other plastic building bricks that will show up
right.
that are cheaper in
I
other
definitely
collections.
have noticed that you could put something in very specific and you might still have to scroll down a couple pages to find it. And it's kind of like, huh? Like, like
Yeah,
it's not the algorithm is bad, it's that the algorithm is biased, meaning it's people who are paying for advertising or promotion
right.
are at the top. Yeah.
And Amazon's manipulating it for brands that they own. So they don't want you to buy a Black and Decker cordless drill. They want you to buy the Amazon Basics cordless drill
Right. Of
because they make
course.
more money on it. And so they're shifting all of these brands around and manipulating stuff that I don't think we can trust um, large companies anymore. And I think that's a shift to small business. But I do have a great analogy that I love to give when people ask me about this. I think the right answer for especially marketers, but really everybody when we think about AI, is to think Iron Man, not Terminator. So I'm a little bit of a sci-fi nerd. I already shouted out R2D2 earlier. But if you think about what the Terminator robot is it's an artificial intelligence. It's 100% robot. We give it a task and it goes out with all of its might to go try to accomplish the task. And there's no human empathy, emotion, or things tied into it there. It's an autonomous AI robot. Iron Man in the Marvel comics is a human, Tony Stark, who is smart and funny and charismatic and has heart, and he can sacrifice himself, and he wraps himself in technology and has the Jarvis AI giving him information he wouldn't have as a human and helping him make decisions and protect himself, but it empowers him as the human to be the superhero, not the robot. And I think when we're looking at our marketing, we can do the same thing. Not how do I replace myself so that I don't have to work anymore? And how can I not talk to customers anymore and just automate this whole thing? So I have a chat bot answer questions, and I have an email marketing automation send follow-ups, and I use machine learning and predictive analytics to do cart abandonment and all these other things so that I don't have to. But instead, think about, like, how do we put this human first? How do we put the human at the center of this and amplify what our magic as a company is, what our story and our brand is, and how we can put our customers first in an ethical way to get them what they need faster and easier. So if a chatbot is helpful to our customers and our goals, great. If it's not, then automating that part of the process is not great. We've seen that with big brands for a long time, where the 800 numbers that are outsourced overseas or to robots, and you have to repeat your customer number 10 times before you get to a human, and try to keep, smashing zero until you get to somebody, is not helpful. That's not for the customers. That's for these large companies to make more money and for you to give up and just, let them take advantage of you. I think we can do better. We've seen this ride enough times, especially you and I. When the internet and email came out, we got spam and pop-up ads. And when social media came out, we get advertising interrupting our feed and manipulative tactics there. And when AI comes out, we get more direct message spam and these robots trying to connect with us on LinkedIn and stuff. And I think that some people will still try and do that, but I think good marketers have learned this lesson enough now that we can just skip that part. We can go start straight to connecting with our audience and the people we're trying to serve, and skip the just because we can scrape a million email addresses with an AI robot doesn't mean we should. And it's going to become illegal, and it's going to be even more annoying before that. And just skip it. We know it doesn't work. And if it does work, it works for a short amount of time before it becomes illegal or everybody hates you for filling their life with spam.
Exactly. So what ethical questions about AI have you run into?
I think there are a few big ones. I just talked about several, but I think data integrity is a huge one, and protecting people's private information. And I think intellectual property is dead. I think that is a concept for another time that doesn't exist anymore. I don't think you can own ideas in a world with AI if you want to make them public. So whether that's an ethical concern or not, I think we do still have to try to give people credit where we can, or help out people that are doing the hard work to create things and not just steal them. But I think that cat's out of the bag. So I think there will eventually be ethical concerns about people being replaced by AI and robots, and how do we support people who may not be able to work anymore or may not need to work anymore in certain professions, and retrain them, or come up with a universal basic income or something to do with humans if we don't need jobs. But I think for the foreseeable future, the question for me is, what's a human job and what's a robot job? And I think it's a spectrum. We can all see that there are some jobs we want robots to do, like bomb disposal in a war zone, or, toxic mining, for lithium underground or something. We probably don't want humans doing that job. There are also jobs we don't want robots doing most of the time, like taking care of our children, or taking your spouse or partner out for a New Year's Eve night on the town. That's probably something you should show up for. And then in between, there's a whole mess of stuff that maybe is a combination of both, or it's a decision to be made in your organization. Can we automate this data project that would take a human decades to do, and have AI do that in a short amount of time? And can we use a human to connect with our customers and actually answer the phone if they don't have to be doing that data project? And we can make better decisions about the messy stuff in the middle.
Yeah. Well, you gave me a great quote earlier. It was, if you are going to spend years building something, you might as well build it for yourself on your own land, which sounds like great advice for founders, but why don't you expand a little on that?
Yeah, I think again, with this seismic shift and change in authority and trust in the platforms that people are using, it's an opportunity for people to think about what they're doing and what they're building. So the initial internet was cool with your own website on your own land where people can go, they can subscribe to your email list, and you can own that relationship. You can decide who you want to talk to, who you don't want to talk to. You have a direct relationship. Then it got weird with social media where we started, building Facebook groups and getting a ton of followers in other places. And it turns out that Facebook can just change the rules whenever they want. If you're selling through Amazon, you don't even get your customer's email address. So you don't even know who they are and stuff. And that can make some really tough businesses. I think also with larger corporations, I do work with some, and I'm not all anti big business, but I think especially with these larger AI models and stuff, we got to be really careful about building them through these top 5 companies that are worth trillions of dollars, because they can change the rules anytime. They can shut it off and they can kill your business. And if we're going to take the time to rebuild in a world with AI, we might as well rebuild it back in that open environment and have our own tools, have our own direct connections with customers, and spend the hard time in the hand-to-hand combat to build something real, a real connection with our audience and our clients, and not this fake connection with some sort of AI generated content that's posted on LinkedIn or another, fake channel that's serving an algorithm or an AI bot. But how do we actually connect real humans and do that hard work of, I still believe was it Peter Thiel that did the 1,000 True Fans? I might have the wrong person. I think it's a different quote, but there's a great book out there called 1,000 True Fans. And I think if you have 1,000 people, real life humans that care about you, you will always be in business. You'll always have a job. Somebody will always help you or buy from you, or you'll be able to connect and offer them value in a way that makes sense. If you have a relationship with 1,000 AI robots or large algorithms, it may work for a while, but they don't care. They can shut it off. You can't ask them for a job. You're gonna struggle at some point, and that's what I mean by build on your own land and have your own relationships with your customers.
Totally makes sense. All right. What are some of your favorite reads or podcasts or whatever to stay up on what's going on with AI?
Well, there are a bunch. I would shout out some classics first, like James Carse, The Infinite Game is a great article to read. We already mentioned Seth Godin is a really cool thought leader that I like to follow. There is a AI newsletter that I subscribe to every day, and I forget I'd have to like open it up and look at the title of it. But there's some really great forums that post every day about new tools and stuff, and most of them are free to try and check out, or you can just skim through the list and see what's interesting to you. And then I love Lex Friedman on YouTube and his podcast. I think there's some really cool leaders. And then, of course, there's your podcast and my Human First AI marketing podcast we want to send people to. And I would look at those people that I mentioned earlier that are really great marketers. Ann Handley is another one that I subscribe to on her email newsletter and pay attention to a lot. They're doing heartfelt human to human marketing, and they're going to find a way to leverage these tools for their best interest. I would be wary and careful about people, maybe like a Gary Vee, or people that just jump from trend to trend all the time, because you'll find yourself with that riding that wave until it stops and crashes into the beach. And he's done a great job for like over 10 years of jumping on the next wave and going from crypto to NFTs to AI and social and back. But that's not the kind of career that I want to build. So I'd look for the people that have longevity in a sane, patient, and heartfelt manner.
Cool. Well, look, it's time for our lightning round called underrated or overrated. So I'm gonna give you a bunch of
Ooh,
things, and you tell me whether you think they're underrated or overrated and why. So we're gonna
okay.
kick it off with Kansas City for live music, underrated or overrated?
Oh, that's a tough question. I would say overrated unless you're really a jazz fan. Kansas City Jazz and 18th and Vine is an amazing district to go hear live music. Outside of that, it's not Austin. And if you're not a fan of jazz, I think jazz itself is a little bit overrated. So I would say come for the barbecue, not the music.
Board games, underrated or overrated?
Underrated. Board games are fun. Now, there's a few overrated ones, Monopoly and others. But in general, I think a board game at a family gathering here over the holidays or a New Year's Eve, you can have a little card game or board game contest. Underrated.
Networking events in person, underrated or overrated?
Ooh, that's tough because I'm in a circle where people love them. So I've been in sales and marketing circles. I would say they're probably underrated for everybody else who's not a networking lover. But for me, they're rated exactly appropriately. I think they're one of the most valuable things you can do to grow your business.
Public speaking as a skill, underrated or overrated?
Ooh. Uh, Underrated. Again, I think it's hyped a lot by people that can do it. There's some weird things in our life that we're like, you know, people that sell online courses make online courses about selling online courses and it gets overhyped. So anybody that's teaching public speaking, I would say is overrated. But for the average person, again, I'm in a circle where all I do is public speaking and entertainment. But for the average person, I think they do need to improve their public speaking skills and do it more.
Online learning, underrated or overrated?
If you're talking about an online course, I would say overrated based on what I just said. If you're talking about controlling your own education, reading blogs, watching YouTube videos to learn how to, fix your refrigerator or something, underrated. There, you can learn anything, even with AI and ChatGPT. In a world where you can learn anything, what do you want to learn? That's amazingly underrated.
Writing for publications, underrated or overrated?
I have done this a bit too, and I haven't ever really seen a lot from it. It's fun, but I'm going to say overrated on that one. I haven't gotten back the ROI on that.
Game shows as entertainment, underrated or overrated?
Underrated. Game shows are awesome. I think they kind of got replaced by reality TV, but they're making a comeback. There's some good game shows on TV, but in person, anytime you can play a game show, super fun.
Remote first workplaces, underrated or overrated?
Ooh, they also got super hyped, but I'm going to still say underrated. There's pluses and minuses, but I think big office buildings overrated. So I got to say remote under.
Homebrewed beer, underrated or overrated?
uh Gosh, you're picking tough ones because they have like I got to separate their crowd. Like I think the micro brewers to me are kind of like Apple fans and Dave Matthews Band fans. Like they're overrated. Um but making something for yourself, I'll say underrated. Learn the science.
Yeah. Live events versus recorded on the internet or whatever, streaming
Yeah.
versus recorded, underrated or overrated?
Live is underrated. I always say do it live. If you watch a recording, too many people are going to skip ahead, try to miss it. And there's just a magic when you do it live that doesn't happen when it's pre-recorded.
Awesome. Well, this has been a great show. Mike, thanks for coming on the show. This has been Mike Montague, founder of Avenue 9 and AI marketing agency. This has been awesome. Thank you, Mike.
Oh, thank you for the great questions. This was a fun discussion and helped me clarify my thinking. So I got a lot of out of it. Hopefully, if you made it till the end here, you did too. And I'm happy to connect with anybody that has questions.
Awesome. Thanks, Mike.